but I don't consider it necessary to comment on that. Russia's support maintains contact both with Israeli officials and the Lebanese officials, and during these contacts we discussed the difficult situation on the border between these countries and other issues. And of course we're very concerned that there are more and more reports of the violations of Israel, of the ceasefire agreements that entered into force in November 2024. And we have presented our principal position of avoiding any steps that could lead to the escalation of violence, a new resurgence of the conflict, and when maintaining contacts with our regional authorities, we will continue contributing efforts towards the long-standing, sustainable stabilization in Israel, Lebanon, and Middle East as a whole. Thank you. Thank you. Is Newsfront with us? Yes. Good afternoon, Madam Zakharova. Just one question. How could you contact on the plans of the German concern Rheinmetall to build a large gunpowder and ammunition plant in Bulgaria? I believe everyone saw how on October 28th in Sofia, in the presence of the top political leadership of Bulgaria, a contract was signed between the state military-industrial enterprise Wazovsky Machinery Zavod and the German concern Rheinmetall on the construction of the largest gunpowder and ammunition plant on the Bulgarian territory. This is yet another act on shifting European economies to a war footing. Can you imagine? Earlier, our citizens would align Sopot with culture, with songs, with competitions, right? There was a competition in Sopot, a festival that was held there. Now the city, for our country, will have a different association and far from music. And a characteristic episode was the tour of the President of the European Commission, Madame von der Leyen, to a number of frontline, as they were classified in Brussels, EU states, including Bulgaria, at the end of August, beginning of September this year. At the time, she unequivocally demanded an increase in military spending and an expansion of military technical production. Of course, for a clear goal, the confrontation with Russia, which has long turned into an obsession or a mania for Euro bureaucrats. And it was a convenient way to hide the disastrous results of economic and social policy, the inability to get to grips with solving systematic problems at home. It's just nothing but a veil to draw away the attention of the failing policy of Brussels in the Euro integration track. When the European Union used to be European Economic Council, this organization helped citizens to survive, and right now they're preventing them from leaving. In conditions where many European states remain sovereign only in words, their governments automatically carry out orders from Brussels without thinking about the real needs of their own citizens or the situation at hand. And we see the steps that lead the situation to the brink of failure. And a contract was signed for the construction by the Rheinmetall concern of a gunpowder plant in Romania. We consider the trend towards the militarization of the European Union to be catastrophic, which, taking into account the events in Ukraine, leads to an exorbitant increase in military political risks in Europe. And also, any lack of understanding of history of their own people, of their own history, of their own states, of the 20th century. They fully rewrote history, turned their population into zombies, cancelled the culture of reading, understanding of historic documents, have demolished any monuments, have made up documents distorting the historic events. And here's where they get the opportunity to manipulate the people and paint the militarization as strife for peace. Ordinary Bulgarians, despite the policy of the authorities for the most part soberly assess the situation, are by no means eager for their country to be turned into a frontline state. I'd like to reiterate, this is the term that has been imposed by Brussels.
Patriotic forces in Bulgaria are protesting against placement of new arms systems, and they are emphasizing that this will no longer improve the unfavorable economic situation. However, Bulgarian people have a good historical memory. Western advisors have more than once drawn them into military misadventures that turned into great trouble, as I have already said, and the example of the 20th century, the 30s and the 40s should never be forgotten. And despite the irresponsible behavior of politicians, the Bulgarian people, with their inherent common sense and love of freedom, I believe, and the respect for the true interests of their homeland, and well-being and prosperity of Bulgaria were won and were achieved at a heavy cost. They paid a high price for that, and that is why should they now be succumb to the lies carried out by someone? Rudolph, are you with us?
Maria Zakharova. I have three questions. My first question is, Kurdistan Workers' Party have withdrawn their fighters from Turkey to Kurdistan region in northern of Iraq. How does Russia see this step for forwarding peace process in Turkey? Also, how do you think this step will contribute to peace in Syria?
Россия выступает в поддержку политическую.
Russia supports the political settlement of the existing problems and welcomes the corresponding efforts to the parties. We proceed for the need to ensure peace and stability both in individual countries and in the entire multinational and multi-confessional region.
The question is that, as Russia, have you made any contract with Syria to sell them oil and natural gas? What's the cost agreed on per barrel?
Между нашими странами.
Between our states, if we speak about Russia and Syria, we have official contacts at all levels, and we are satisfied that they have recently acquired an intensive character during the talks held on October 15th of this year in Moscow between the President of the Russian Federation and the President of Syria. A mutual intention was confirmed to restart the entire complex of bilateral ties in the new conditions, including the activation of the work of the Permanent Russian-Syrian Commission on Trade, Economic and Scientific Technical Cooperation. The dialogue between Russia and Syria continues its agenda. And I would like to say the agenda covers a wide range of issues of bilateral cooperation, including in the oil and gas sector. Specific parameters, in particular financial aspects, are discussed through the channels of relevant agencies and experts.
Last question is that we are going to have a parliamentary election in Iraq on November 11th. How do you see Iraq and forming a strong government?
Предстоящий 11 ноября очередной.
The upcoming regular parliamentary elections in Iraq on November 11 are an important stage in the political life of this country, and this is exactly how the Iraqis themselves assess them. The interested political structures interested in the implementation of rights and freedoms of their peoples, of strengthening the statehood of their own state, and this is how they are assessed by the interested political structures, which are now actively participating in the election campaign. We wish our Iraqi friends a successful organization of the elections and the implementation of the expression of the will of their peoples and the formation of a new government